This is a review on the Edelrid Megawatt Descender. So I got to play with this for a couple of weeks. As you can see, it has a dual opening catch lock. I don't know why they decided to do that on it, but they did. No other Descender has it. So as you can see, it's easy to open up, easy enough to put the rope in. It just goes in nice and easy. And this is my first time descending on it, besides using it in my garage to test it out. So it felt a bit awkward, kind of putting your thumb across to the side to push down on it. There's only one other descender on the market that goes across the other way, kind of like that, to descend. It takes a little bit of getting used to. And then when you flip the handle over to lever it up, it's kind of a bit awkward to kind of like pull it up with your finger to try and descend. It's, as you can see, it's just kind of an awkward motion to kind of do, so I probably wouldn't really recommend kind of using it that way. But I tried the one-handed descent mode, and this is the only user manual that says you can use a descender one-handed, but I found with the weight of the rope, it really crushes your hand into the descender, and so it makes it kind of hard and awkward with the heaviness of the rope. Like if you've got a lot of rope out, then there's a lot of force pulling your hand kind of back in. It almost, as you can see from here, it almost wants to suck your hand back in where the rope goes. Like it's really kind of hard and awkward. I don't know why they suggested that way of doing it at all. I wouldn't suggest that way. So after playing around with it for a bit, the easiest way I found to do it was to do it this way. Flip the handle into the anti-panic side and push up on it with your thumb and grip the rope with your four fingers. That way too, you can actually get more friction on the rope as well, and it's a lot easier to descend. So I don't know why they suggested doing it the other way. I'd do it this way. It's much easier. And you may think, why do I need to descend one-handed? If you need to come down with sucker pad, glass, cladding, or something like that, and you don't have a power descender, then this is your next best option to descend with. So I did find when the handle is locked down in that mode, I had one time where I stopped and then I found a dead spot like this in the descender where the rope just kept moving. I couldn't catch it on video, but I had it happen on the ground when I was down there. So there is a bit of a dead spot where the rope can flow through, which, because it does have the anti-panic as well, I found once you're on the ground, it is a bit hard when you've got that dead spot and you keep kind of flicking the handle a bit, trying to unlock it so that you can feed the rope through. Once you're on the ground, to try and get your weight off the rope, like I know all descenders that have the anti-panic have that problem, and it was really noticeable with this. Climbing up was fairly easy. It's just the same as any other descender. There wasn't any noticeable difference about it, no matter which kind of way you like to do it. I did try the friction method as well. I kept a small carabiner on my harness because that's what it had suggested to use. So I had a go of it. Like, I know I didn't pull my hand probably up high enough to make much of a difference, but you can notice a little bit. It is a fairly quick descender overall. So it worked quite well with the friction. Adding it for a second person in a rescue is when you obviously need to use that, so you need to keep that in mind and keep a smaller carabiner on your harness for that purpose, like what the instruction manual says to do. I decided to try a twisted carabiner, so you can push the handle forward instead of pushing it across your body. The only problem where I had an issue with that is going over a parapet wall right in front of you. But apart from that, it felt a little bit better in your hand, a bit easier to push forwards than kind of push across. But if you're doing long drops, your thumb probably does get a bit sore after a while, was the only thing I noticed, as opposed to it being a push descender as opposed to a pull descender like every other descender that's pretty much on the market. Once again, still struggling with the anti-panic, getting the rope through on the ground. This is climbing over the edge with the descender. I did a few jobs where I had to climb over the edge with it. I only had one time where in climbing over the edge that I actually had the carabiner get caught and kind of side load the carabiner, so that's something to keep in mind, is that you still can side load a carabiner. I know that one there is the twisted carabiner I'm using in that little bit of the video there, but you'll see here that I'm just stepping up to undo the side loaded carabiner, so keep in mind it can still happen with this descender. In summary, it's not a bad descender to use. It takes a little bit to get used to pushing with your thumb as opposed to pulling with your fingers, and especially going across your body as well feels a little bit weird, but you do get used to it after a while. But if you do a lot of jobs where you can't get a tight line or tension lines set up to come down with objects or whatever, and you don't have a power descender, then this is probably the best descender for that, because you can descend one-handed, so you can still hang on to something and come down nice and controlled with one hand. So I'd like to thank Urban Abseiler for lending it to me for a couple of weeks to do the review. If you're interested in getting one, go hit them up and pick one up today.